This is BBC One. Now the 9 o'clock news with Peter Sissons.
Jill Dando, known and loved by millions, has been brutally murdered. The 37-year-old presenter died in hospital after being found shot through the head on her own doorstep. Tonight in West London, a massive police hunt for the well-dressed man seen running away down the street in which she lived.
Hi and welcome back to the Nancy Boyce channel. So I'm in sunny Fulham today. I'm here to explore what is almost a 25-year mystery now. It involved one of our biggest stars back in the late 90s by the name of Jill Dando. So if you don't know Jill and you weren't around in the 90s, she was almost as big as you could get in terms of celebrity. She was, you know, the kind of the BBC's golden girl. So to put that into context, she was killed on the 26th of April 1999. Funnily enough, it's about 6 days after the Columbine massacre in Colorado in the US. So it was very odd in the UK to have such a prominent sort of gun crime happen, because we just don't really get a lot of gun crime in the UK. And on the day that Jill died, it was a Monday, and she was due to present the 6 o'clock news that week. That week as well, she'd also appeared on the front cover of the Radio Times, which back in the 90s was one of the biggest magazines we had. It was sort of TV listings and sort of light entertainment. And she was on the front cover the week that she actually died. And actually the night before, she had a new show called The Antiques Inspectors. It premiered on the Sunday night, where she was at the home of her fiance in Hammersmith. And then so it came to be on that Monday morning, she came back to our home in Fulham and was unfortunately shot dead on her doorstep. Now Netflix have just about to release a documentary next week, I believe it is, called Who Killed Jill Dando. The thing is still a bit of a mystery in terms of who actually killed Jill. Someone was convicted and locked up for 8 years, and eventually they were acquitted, and that trial collapsed. So we don't know why it happened, we don't know how it happened, but it was at the time a very shocking crime for the UK, for one of our kind of biggest stars. So it was on that Monday morning that Jill left her fiance's place in Hammersmith and actually ended up running a few errands that day. So she stopped off in Hammersmith, at a mall there, just to do a bit of shopping in Ryman's, which was the stationers back then, to get fax paper, which kind of puts us in the right era. She went to Dixon's, another electronics store, which has now closed. And then Jill drove back here. She was in her BMW flat top. Apparently a member of the public actually saw her and they smiled at each other in the street. And then Jill came here for her last errand. So we are outside. I'm just going to swing around here. This little building over here, this was what was known as Cope Seafood. And Jill stopped here just before heading home to buy a couple of Dover sole for her dinner. And that was going to be what she was going to cook for that evening for their fiance, Alan. It's now a kebab shop, as you can see. But you can see on Street View, this was very recently Cope Seafood. And this was where Jill Dando's kind of last errand took place. This was the last thing she actually did before she headed home back to Gowan Avenue. So we're going to head there now just to see where everything else took place. And just quickly, because I don't like doing this in residential areas, particularly where someone lives, but this is Gowan Avenue, so this is the street where Jill was murdered at number 29. Now, I'm not going to go and do voiceovers down there. We'll go and get a few images of the house, but I don't want to stand outside and talk. This already feels a little bit odd as it is, especially being on my own, and a little disrespectful, but I do think it's interesting. It's part of our history. And yeah, the mystery is still unsolved, so it's partly getting some of the stories still out there and helping people understand what happened.
It's a quiet, pretty avenue in southwest London, where Jill Dando had lived for several years. Shortly before midday, some of her neighbours were alerted that something was wrong. Two women went towards the front door and saw someone lying on the doorstep. A third neighbour joined them.
I heard the scream.
You heard a scream?
I did hear a scream.
Did you hear a man's voice or anything like that?
No man's voice at all. And did you hear a shot, or did you...
There was no shots. That's what I would say was a shot. I wouldn't have thought there was a shot, no.
So Jill was just 37 when she died, which blows my mind because I'm 41 now and I was about 17, must have been about 17 when Jill died. So she had a real presence, and it's very sad. She was in a really good time in her life. She was just about to sell her house in Fulham and move in with her fiance Alan, who she'd been dating for a few years. They were actually due to marry in September. And she was barely living at the house on Gowan Avenue at that point. And really was just popping back and forth to do different things. But she really was, one of our biggest celebrities at the time.
Hello, welcome to the Antiques Inspectors, the show where the
Jill Dando was possibly the most popular woman on British television. She was certainly the busiest. A new series began only last night. Her unaffected glamour, easy professionalism, radiant good nature, lighting up the Antiques Inspectors. The front cover of Radio Times this week, again. The fame she carried so naturally, greater than ever. The fame that almost certainly killed her.
Anyway, thanks for watching today. It's always weird doing these kinds of videos, and always kind of weird the feeling you get. It does feel slightly intrusive. I have to remind myself, it's 25 years ago. And as I said earlier, it's still a live investigation. It's still a mystery. We don't know who did it. And I think in part that's probably why Netflix have just done their documentary. It's to reignite some of the story and see if we can kind of find out any more. But I just wanted to come down here today and just see where all of that took place 23 years ago. Anyway, thank you for watching. I know this is, in terms of hobbies, a bit of a strange one, and not everyone's going to appreciate this kind of content. I think I like my horror film location tours and my reviews because they're not personal in any way, but there was no disrespect meant today in coming down to sort of see these locations where Jill Dando died. It was just to really understand the setting and to see it for myself. Check out the documentary. Obviously it hasn't been released yet as of this recording, and see what you think. That'll give far more information than I've got, and it'll be far more up to date. But otherwise, enjoy, and I'll catch you on the next one.